Hi, my name is Abbas Taras. I am a professor of international business at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and also the founder of XCulture. And so the plan for today's session is to give you a little overview of what XCulture is, but then more importantly, tell you what you need to do next, both to enroll in the project if you haven't done so yet, but then if you have any questions or difficulties with the readiness test, I'll help you with that. And then if you have any questions or any comments, I will be happy to address those. So you can put your questions at any time in the Q&A window as I'm speaking, or better yet, if you want to talk directly to me, just raise your hand. I think there is a button at the bottom of your screen that looks like a raised hand. Just raise your hand and I'll add you to the session here and we'll talk. So a little bit about the XCulture's history, so you know where we came from. XCulture is 11 years old at this time, and originally it was envisioned as essentially a lab or a experiential activity in addition to an international business course I was teaching at that time. So the idea was that I would find a professor in a different country who also teaches international business, and my students and that professor's students would be placed on international teams, and they would work across cultures and time zones and sort of learn in real life what we are trying to teach them in the classroom. And surprisingly, not one, but many professors responded to my call. So we had, the first time we did it in 2010, we had 7 countries, 7 professors. Notably, all 7 are still participating in XCulture, so that original group are still in. And so that's very interesting. And in fact, quite a few of them are participating this very semester. Like, for example, Professor Toshio Ozaki from Japan, although this time he's joining with a group of students from Vietnam. So they have a joint program there. So there are several people who have been with us for many, many, many years. And so first time we had 7 professors. Next time, I believe we had something like 15. And then it pretty much doubled every year. So this year, this semester, we expect about 187 professors coming from 45 countries by the location of the university, but 76 countries by the location of the students. And the reason for the larger number of the countries by the location of the students is that a few years ago, not only students from universities were enrolling in the project, but we also started getting inquiries from non-student participants. In most cases, it would be friends of students who participated in the project and who wanted that experience. And so they said, can I enroll individually? And so we started calling them professionals, allowed them to participate. And so now we have a group of students each semester who are basically people who are seeking to advance their career, who are trying to sort of improve their resume and enroll in this project for that reason. And then also some time ago, we allowed pre-college teens to participate. By the way, university students go in a separate track, pre-college teens go in a separate track, and professionals go in a separate track. So you may intersect in some of these webinars with them, but they are in all teenager teams, obviously, or all professional teams, and the university students are with university students. So now, XCulture offers sort of 2 propositions or values or benefits, or there are 2 components to XCulture for the students. The first one, from the very beginning, it was the idea that it would be the international collaboration experience. So the whole point of XCulture is that you will be in a team of about 5, 6, up to 7 people, and each one of you will be from a different location. There may be 2 students from the United States just because we get so many applications from the United States, but it would be, for example, a student from California and a student from New York, which are substantially different, both geographically, but also culturally. And there would be 4 or 5 other countries represented on the team. And so the whole idea was that it will give you an opportunity to sort of experience in real life the challenges, but also learn the best practices of working with people from other cultures. And so this includes both kind of cross-cultural collaboration, but also online collaboration. Now that COVID has been around for about a year, everyone sort of knows what Zoom is, for example, right? But a year ago, it was still a novelty, and we literally had to teach students how to go online and use Skype or Zoom or whatever other online collaboration tools, Dropbox, Google Docs. So now it's becoming a little bit more ubiquitous, and we're still providing that sort of training. Now, so that's one component. So the collaboration, teamwork with people from other cultures. So that's the original intent. But then a few things happened that we did not expect originally. Like, for example, in 2013, one of our professors was doing consulting with Mercedes-Benz. And so they were trying to come up with some ideas for a marketing strategy. And so they thought maybe it would be a good idea to ask you, students, if you can come up with some interesting ideas. And so they reached out to me asking if they can ask the X-Culture students to work on one of the challenges. We tried it, it worked very well. We even had a symposium, like twice a year, we bring best students for a face-to-face meeting. And so one of them in 2013 was hosted by Mercedes-Benz. We spent a few days on at their factories. So how they make buses and trucks, it was about buses and trucks, not about cars, it was the big machines. And so we liked it, the students liked it, so it was more practical. And so ever since, we would select up to 10 companies each semester. And if I remember correctly, this semester we have 10 companies, but one of them is represented by 16 companies. Alibaba kind of signed up 16 of their clients to be X-Culture clients. So I guess that makes it, what, 25 total. And so you can choose any of those companies, and you will essentially work as a business consultant. So they will present their challenge, a real life challenge that they have. And your job will be to essentially develop a solution to that challenge. We have live webinars with the company representatives, and we already had a few last month for the, not last month, earlier this month. For the early track, there will be more in the late track. You can watch the recordings of the old meetings. There will be more live meetings. And so you will essentially be a consultant. So you will interact, at least if you come to the live meeting, with the company CEO or founders. You will have a real live challenge described to you. You will have information about the company, and you will try to solve the challenge. Sorry. So this way you sort of get two things. On the one hand, you get this cross-cultural experience. On the other hand, you have business experience. And so you kind of get from X-Culture more than you would get from a regular course. Not only you will get the grade for the project and the course as you would in any business course you take at a university. But at the end, we also will make sure that you get proper documentation of your new experiences and skills. So at the end, you will receive an X-Culture certificate and also a recommendation letter. So initially it would have been only a certificate, but then so many students were asking for the recommendation letters that now we give one to everyone by default. So at the end, you will receive a package that will contain your certificate, your recommendation letter, your performance review, and then some of the comments on the tests that you will be taking during the project. And so, yes, you can take that certificate, you can take that recommendation letter when you apply for jobs, apply maybe to graduate school or for stipends or whatever else you may be applying for. And we have a lot of emails getting from students. Over the years, it's now in hundreds, maybe even more than 1,000, that tell us how much those certificates and recommendation letters have helped them get in jobs. The story often goes as this. The student says, I applied for this job. I went for a job interview. There were 20 other people waiting for the, to be interviewed, and I thought I have no chance. I walk into the room and the HR specialist or company manager is interviewing me, and I can see that he or she is bored. I'm just like everybody else, went to a good school, got good grades, had some internships, but nothing special. But then I mentioned my X-Culture experience, and the interviewer wakes up and like, oh, tell me more. So you work with people from all different countries, and you completed a project for a real company. Oh, that's very interesting. And so before I knew it, I got the job. And that's exactly our intent. Again, obviously, we cannot guarantee that you will get a job, but if you do a good job, we at least will document your performance, and we will comment on it in that recommendation letter. And it's a long letter. It's like 3 pages, and it comments on all the, what you did, what kind of experiences you acquired, what kind of performance indicators or performance you showed. And then in the end, obviously, if you do well, we say that we can recommend you for projects that require teamwork, international collaboration, complex problem solving. And there will be always a few students who don't do so well. So in that case, the letter literally will say, we cannot recommend, although it's a very small percentage. The vast majority of the students do pretty well. So that's the background. The only thing I will add is that X-Culture also is kind of branching out in other directions. And so maybe some of you will join us in the future in other capacities. We have many students who participate in X-Culture for years. And so first it was in the form of students taking X-Culture over and over again. We had this guy from Austria, Heinrich Feike. So he participated like 4 times in a row, just, for fun. And at some point I thought, well, what's the point in people doing the same thing again and again and again? I know they like it. I know it's great, but what's the point? And so it was around 2016, I believe, we created what we call the X-Culture coaching program. So what that is, this semester we have 87 former participants from X-Culture who serve as coaches to you guys, to the new generation of X-Culture students. And so they will do all kinds of things for their own development, but you are obviously the clients. So for example, if you need feedback on your work, like let's say you're working on the report and you want to feedback on the draft, they will provide that feedback. In fact, they will provide feedback even if you don't ask for it for the whole cohort, but if you want personal feedback, they can do that as well. If there is maybe a conflict in your team, or maybe there is some sort of a situation that you need help resolving, they will help with that as well. They will also organize a series of training webinars on all kinds of topics, from addressing issues of plagiarism, to teamwork, to communication, to you name it. And so they receive 4 additional weeks of training and have to complete 4 additional tests before they become coaches. So we get about 400 or 500 applications for the program and select usually about 80 plus or minus students to be in that program. So we teach them how to provide feedback, how to resolve cross-cultural conflicts, communication, collaboration, all kinds of things that they need to know to be effective coaches. And so that's a really interesting program, because first you kind of get to be a member of a cross-cultural team. But then if you get into the coaching program, you get to be a coach, a mentor, a sort of big brother to members of global virtual teams. And so that's a really valuable experience because they kind of get to observe literally about 1,000 international teams and sort of work with you. So that's a valuable experience. Also, we started doing this semester all kinds of kind of cultural events. Like for example, one we just did last weekend, I really like these. We have virtual potlucks. So that's where everybody comes to a potluck and brings their food with them. And, just like you would come to like a picnic, virtual picnic. And so we show each other what kind of food we have and talk a little bit about it, and we just eat together. And so for me, it's usually a morning, so I would have my coffee. Somebody in Asia may have dinner, so they'll show what they have for dinner. So little things like that. So we have a few of those different ones, and you'll hear about them. So it's, once in a while, like usually on weekends, we do something fun. So things like that. Obviously, research is a big component of X-Culture, so we need to know why some teams do better than others, why some people are much more effective than others, why some teams experience problems, difficulties. So we collect data to understand, and you will see that in weekly surveys, there will be usually a few questions about your team, how things are going, so we can understand that and then use that knowledge to make the project better. So we do a lot of research, for example, on free riders, people who are not participating hard enough, trying to understand if we can predict who's going to be a free rider so we can exclude those people from the project before the project starts. We study motivation, communication, all those kinds of things, leadership in teams, to understand what works, what doesn't. So that's about the project in general. Now what you need to do at this time. So one, if you are here, I assume you already received your welcome letter. And so it would have been a letter that came from admin@xculture.org. So let me show you what it looks like. So let me see if I can find mine. I will send a copy to myself. So let me share my screen here and show you what it looks like. So this is my email account. And so if I go here, you will see, let me see if I can find one that came to me. So that's a retake. So when I failed the test, and I think this is the actual letter so that you receive, right? And so all it says that, welcome to X-Culture, but there are 2 important links in this letter. So if you haven't done it yet, find that letter. And so one of the links will take you to the X-Culture resource page. So this is the page where you have all of the materials related to X-Culture on one page. People have been saying that maybe we need to create some sort of a fancy app or have a more fancy web page, but it seems to me like it's convenient when everything is just on one page. You just scroll down and you have here everything that you need. So you have the training materials, and so you have a couple of videos that basically tell you what I just told you. But then there is this PDF file, which we call the X-Culture training module. And it talks about, so right here. And so it has one section about X-Culture itself. So it tells you what the project is, and I kind of told you that. Not in as much detail as in that PDF file, but basically that's the same information. Plus it contains some more information about the dates, about the deadlines, where you find them, how the communication happens, and things like that. Then it has a section on the technical side, so the communication tools in virtual teams, and the human side. So the human side discusses the known problems, challenges that we've seen in teams before, and we provide our own recommendations for how to address them if you experience anything like this. Now, most of the students in X-Culture come from universities that teach international business. But we do have some differences in how international business is taught in different countries, as well as there is some difference in the level of instruction. And so just to make sure that you have everything kind of covered, I recorded here kind of like a crash course on international business. And so here you will see like a 50-minute summary of all of the key concepts that you need to know to succeed at X-Culture. So it talks a little bit about international marketing, about international HR, about logistics, market entry modes. So little things like that. The vast majority of you, I assume, have that in the courses that you are taking now as you are enrolled in X-Culture, or maybe you took it before. But if not, here is like a whole semester condensed to less than an hour. There is also an interesting link here. So one of our professors from Singapore Management University, Professor Gordon Perchold. So he recorded like a series of videos, instructions related to business consulting. So Professor Perchold, he's been most of his life a professional consultant with Deloitte. It's one of the global big three consulting companies. And so he knows a thing or two about consulting. And so he sort of recorded this, what he calls matrix series, to explain to you, to the students, how the real consulting world is different from what is taught in universities. And so it's optional. We cannot require you to go through all of it. But if you would like to learn more, that's your opportunity. Then you have the schedule, obviously. Then you have the submission instructions. And then you have the list of companies that participate in X-Culture this semester. And so all you need to do, you just click on the link, and it takes you directly to the file that describes the company and what the company wants from you. So there would be usually a few pages that describe the company history. In this particular case, I believe there is a link to the company description. So if you click here, you will see a nice sort of presentation about Dart Drones, what it is, what the company does. And then there is a set of questions that they would like you to work on. Like this particular company wants to help them select a new market, then conduct industry and competition analysis, then help with the marketing strategy for that market. And then there are a few questions, I believe, about operations management, yes. So they want to have some suggestions for the pricing strategy, for the entry mode, and things like that. And so basically that's it. That's all you have on this page. Plus there are some resources for the instructors. We thought, in full disclosure, we will share those with you in case you want to see more, but that's basically where it is. Now, the second important link in this email is the link to your readiness test. These are, as you can see, the link is very long. It's personalized. And so in this link, oh, I already completed it. So, but in this link, you have your, your name sort of, encoded. So once you click on the link, we know who you are, and you can go to that test. And so I assume by now you all either have taken the test or attempted to take it, but that link is taking you to the test. Historically, about 90% of the people, 92 maybe percent, pass the test on the first attempt. But if you fail, you will get a new link 1 hour later, and you can try again. And so as long as you pass it on the second try, you will still be allowed to participate in the project. Now, we do require 80% or higher to pass the test. And the reason for that, again, is that nobody wants team members who are not sort of ready to be good team members. So the test has, or tests several things. One, obviously, English. So we want to make sure that students are fluent enough to understand the training materials and to be able to comprehend them and answer the questions on the test. But second, we also look at basically, are you available to receive the emails? In the past, we would put all students on teams, and turns out some of the emails were incorrect, or some of the students never communicated with their teams. So here we kind of make sure that you can receive emails from us, your email is working, but also that you're interested enough to go online and spend that half an hour or whatever time it takes, hour, to take the test. So it's kind of a test of diligence, so to speak. Second, I'll be honest with you. So there is a very important predictor in that test that essentially tells us who's going to be the slacker. And so that is the percentage of the questions that you attempt on the exam. So those of you who have taken the test know that it's a long test, right? It takes some time and it has about 100 questions. And so we noticed almost accidentally, so when we download the data, there is all kinds of metadata. So the information about the test itself that we get by default. And one of those columns is the percentage of the questions attempted. And I never paid attention to it. I literally just basically deleted it. I'm like, who cares? I want to know what percentage of the questions you answered correctly. But then one of my students accidentally ran some correlations and found that the percentage of the questions you attempt is an even better predictor of how well you do in the project than the percentage of the correct answers. So we found that students who do not attempt all questions, even if they attempt enough to get a passing grade, but if they skip some questions, they're almost guaranteed will be not very good team members. They will drop out. And the reason seems to be yes, if you're not disciplined enough, not gritty enough, not committed enough to take the test and answer each question, chances are you probably will also miss some of the meetings with your team, maybe will not do your work on time. And so as a result, it will be a problem. So we now pay attention to those things as well. But yeah, that's basically the test. Now, a couple more things that happen after you pass the test. So on March the 1st, we will start forming teams. And let me show you what the file looks like for the early track. So we have two tracks. So we have the so-called early track and late track. The reason for that is that we have so many different countries, and each country has its own schedule. And so as a result, the semester starts earlier in some locations and later in others. And so what we do is we place students into those two tracks. One of them starts in January, and then you guys, the late track, will start in March. And so in the early track, we have close to 2,000 students, and we expect another 4,000, maybe a little bit more, in the late track. And so let me share my screen again. I'll show you what my records look like sort of from the background, from the behind the scenes. So this is the file that I have for the early track. And as you see, we have all these students listed here. So all of them, sorted by the professor. And so here we have all of the information that we need on the students. So we have, let me just hide them email addresses and names just so that, I don't want to, but anyway, so here we have everything beginning from the readiness test, the scores and everything. And so if I scroll all the way down, so as you can see, students, that's the test score. So the students got, 80 and above as expected. And then if I scroll all the way down, you will see that there will be a few students here that didn't pass the test. So some of them never took the test. Like, for example, we have out of what, like 1,500, 600. So there are about maybe 100 people who for some reason never even attempted the test, and we don't know why. So it's like about 70 people. So either they dropped the course that they, that X-Culture is part of, or whatever the reason, I don't know, email didn't work, lost interest, but obviously because they didn't take the test, we never placed them on teams. And then there are also a few students who took the test, but as you can see, didn't get the passing grade. In fact, some of them, like this student, took it 3 times, but still the best grade the student could get was 70, even though English was 100% correct. So there's like a mini English test in the readiness test. But because the readiness test was only 70, we figured, even though the student tried 3 times and couldn't pass, we don't think we want that student on the team, right? And then everybody else is here, so everything's good. And so if I scroll to the right here, I will see weekly performance for each student. So I see, like, for example, week 4. So we have peer evaluations here, self-evaluations, plus we also ask for your, how motivated are you? Are you enjoying? Is everything clear? And again, please do answer these questions honestly. You will see them in the weekly surveys, because it's not something that we use to judge you. No, by no means. It's for me to know if everything's fine. So for example, like this student, I can see that his, clarity is low. He's not motivated. He is not confident he can finish. So what I will do in this case, I or one of our coaches will reach out to the student and ask if he needs help. So maybe the student does need a little direction, or maybe something's going on in the team that requires, help. And so obviously we want to help that student and, get him back on track. And so when you look at the student here, you can see that next week, the student didn't complete the survey and his peer evaluations kind of went a little down. So obviously, we should have intervened, but then it looks like he's back on track and now performing better in the next week. And so the rest is still empty because they're still participating, but basically we keep track of all of those things. And so you will see weekly, what we call progress surveys. They're relatively short and we just ask you, is everything okay? How is your team doing? What have you done this week? Can you show us your work? Again, it's not evaluated. It's just for us to make sure that you're making progress, that you don't wait until the last day to try to do everything at that time. And if there is a problem, obviously we would like to help you. So it's in our interest that you succeed. And there would be also peer evaluations. So we ask you to evaluate each of your team members and tell us how they are doing. And again, the reason for that is if somebody is not participating, somebody is not working hard, we want to do something about that. So if you have team members who are not participating actively enough, do tell us. And so what happens in that case is if the peer evaluations go below 2.0, we automatically reach out to the student and say, hey, your team tells us that you're not actively participating. Is everything okay? In some cases, it could be a sign that maybe something is not okay. Maybe the student, missed some of the instructions and needs some help, or maybe there is a conflict in the team. But in some cases, it may literally mean that the student is sort of lost or lazy or busy with something else. And in that case, we say, well, you better get your things together and, get back on track. Your team needs you. And so if the student improves by the next week, everything's fine. But if not, sadly, we have to kick out that student from the team. So if you have bad students, it happens very rarely, but it's possible, it's likely that you may have one student maybe on your team who is not working hard enough. If that happens, if you tell us, we will talk to the student and we will try the student, to help the student. But if that doesn't help, then we will kick that student out of the team. And actually, let me show you how it looks. So there is this file that shows how many people we have on the team. As you see, most of the teams have 6 people, some have 7, but these are how many? 10 students in the early track who didn't do well. And so we kicked them out from the teams and put them on one-person teams. So meaning that we allow them to stay in the project and complete the project, but now they are on one-person teams. And so they still work on the same challenge and they still complete, abide by the same deadlines, but now they have to complete everything individually. And so the reason we do it that way is because we don't want the professors, to design a whole new project for their students if the student is not, doing well in a team. So we don't want the professors to kind of frantically running around and trying to come up with a new assignment for them. So we say that's okay, your student can stay in the project, they'll just need to complete the same project individually, and then we will send you the work, the submission that the student produces individually, and you as a professor, you can decide what to do with that. And to be honest, I sometimes have students like that. So sometimes I teach a large class and I may have 1 or even 2 like that. And so in that case, I just look at their report and evaluate what they submitted to me and kind of, drop the team component and look only at the quality of the work. So whereas for the students who work in teams, what matters to me more is basically how well they do as a team member rather than the final submission. Final submission is important, but obviously, the effort matters more. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Now, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A or raise your hand and I'll talk to you. And let me take a look here at the questions we have here. So do we get the certificate from the company? Not from the company. Wonderful question, Swapnil. So the certificate is not from the company per se, but in the certificate, it talks about which challenge, which company you worked on. It describes what you did. So the company name is mentioned. And so you will have something that shows which company you worked for and something sort of from the company, so to speak. but it will not be a separate certificate, one from, for example, Dart Drones and one from Xculture. What happens though, Swapnil though, is that many companies are so impressed with the work of students that they offer students jobs. And we have every semester, every single semester, we have several students who get jobs or internships with the companies for which they work. In fact, this semester, we have a very interesting developing story at this time. So there is a company headquartered in Italy called Matchplat. So they participated last semester and will participate again next semester, but they're not participating this semester. And so they are expanding into China. And so they decided to hire a couple of local representatives in China. And so they hired 2 Xculture students. Now, it turns out it's very difficult to manage people who are Chinese nationals in China from outside China. There are all kinds of restrictions on communication tools, like they cannot use some of the tools, like Skype doesn't work in China, for example. But then also turns out there are all kinds of difficulties with payments. So it's not so easy to pay to Chinese nationals in China. So there are like interesting things going on. So we actually then conducted an additional sort of research for them, trying to figure out which communication tools would work, which payment systems would work. So, and then eventually we found a few solutions, so everything should be fine. So you will have something like that from the company. Also note that many companies sort of give you what they call a real life challenge. And so they say, all right, well, you believe that, let's say China is a good market or whatever, the United States is a good market for our company. And you believe that your strategy will work there, marketing strategy, whatever you suggested. Why don't you prove it to us by approaching a few retailers or distributors or clients and asking if they would like to buy our product? And if you do succeed at that, we will even pay you aftermarket commission. And every semester we have students who succeed at that. We've had students who, for example, made or brought contracts essentially for an Italian shoemaker. So there was a student who literally went into a shoe store in the United States and said, hey, there is this Italian company, they make shoes. Would you like to try to maybe sell their shoes? And so they made a contract. We had a student in Australia who kind of brought a contract for selling cow ovulation tests from the United States in Australia. Who would have thought that there is even a product like that? Like, I didn't even know that there is something like that. But turns out if you're breeding cows, like if you're a rancher, you need to know when the cows are ovulating so that they can be inseminated at the right time. And so there is a test for that. And so a company from Florida in the United States makes those tests. And so they sell them in the United States and they wanted to expand into new countries. And somebody made arrangements to make it in Australia. Now we have a developing story with one of the teams Dart Drones that I mentioned. So it turns out they believe that there is a market for Dart Drones. So Dart Drones is a company that provides training for drone pilots. So it's for commercial purposes or maybe for like firefighters. They need to survey a building sometimes from a drone. And so they train drone pilots. And so the team believes that there is a market in Saudi Arabia for that. So they made some inquiries and now they're negotiating the contract. And so obviously when the company sees that, so they often are impressed. And we've had many cases when not only jobs were offered, but they literally said, would you like to be our local representative? You seem to be interested in our product. You seem to be very good at it. So why don't you set up an office where we'll help you and you will be basically our subsidiary in your country. So we've had cases like that. So you can get quite a lot from the company in addition to the mention in the recommendation letter. Which test is this? After 4 weeks, we need to give one more test. So Swapnil again is asking about the tests. So the readiness test is the one that you need to take now by the end of the week to be placed on the team. But then every week there will be what we call a progress survey. So usually Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, you will receive an email with the link to your personal progress survey. And that survey will ask you basically, is everything okay this week? And so all you need to do, just click, answer a few questions, and this way we know that everything's good in your team. So hi, Prof, thank you for informative session. I'm still confused about the format for the readiness test and the types of questions the test gives us. You know what, let me show you what the test looks like. And so that way you will know. So first of all, the test is not timed. So which means that you can take as much time as you want to take the test. And so you don't have to rush it. And in fact, if I had to take that test, I would go to the test first and I would literally open the test and just read question by question. And then as you progress, I would sort of find the answers in that PDF file. And the questions, by the way, go in the same order as they are covered in the PDF file. So essentially, you will be, finding the answers as you go along. And so this is a test sort of preview. That's what it looks like on the computer. This is what it looks like on the phone. So first, you tell us if you read the instructions, and let's say you did read them. And so this one is just basically to make sure that you've gone through everything. And then it has some questions, like, for example, what is the main task that your team has to accomplish or will have to accomplish in Xculture? So will you need to write a paper about the world economic crisis? No. Will you have to write a paper about the cultures and traditions of their countries? No. Will you write a business proposal for an international company? Yes. The sole purpose of the project is to make friends in other cultures? No. It's one of the purposes, but no. By the way, talking about friends, we actually have quite a lot of friendships going on through Xculture. And we actually had the first wedding 2 years ago, I believe. So in 2018, we had the Xculture Symposium in Italy. And so the Xculture Symposium before COVID, and hopefully starting next year again, we will be bringing the best students face-to-face, for an Xculture Symposium. We call it the Xculture Business Week. So for 1 week, you stay together and, we do all kinds of workshops, career development, company visits, sightseeing. So a lot of intensive training and, useful stuff in that week. And so we did one in, for example, Italy in 2018. We did another one in Canada in 2019. We did several of them in the United States. Last summer, it was supposed to be in Singapore. We even booked the venue. If you've seen the Crazy Rich Asians, we booked for the opening ceremony, the place where in the movie they had the wedding. And then we were also supposed to visit that kind of hotel that looks like a ship, which one I'm talking about. And then unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to cancel everything, but we hope we will be going there next year if everything's fine. Plus we're considering a few other countries. So the United States, Washington, DC is on the list. And we are also looking at Grenada. So we got an invitation from there as well. So we'll see how soon, but more likely than not, it will be not this summer, but the year after, because this summer it looks like it still will be impossible to travel. But in Italy, turns out there were 2 team members. He was from the United States, she was an Italian. And so they had been communicating ever since they took part in the project. And then in Italy, he proposed, she accepted, and they got married. So, I'm not saying that that's the purpose of Xculture, but even that happens. But anyway, back to the test. So you answer the questions, go one by one. And then, so first you have questions, as I said, about Xculture. And some of them are really simple. Like, for example, what is the website address? So we know it's .org, not .com, right? So there are some questions about the deadlines. When is the final report due? And so the final report is due on the 23rd, if I remember correctly. And again, how you know that? It's in the instructions, it's on the resource page. You have the deadlines right here. Remember, we looked at them. So we want to make sure that you can and find them. So final report is due on the 23rd, right? And so you just answer those questions. And then once you're done with the questions related to Xculture itself, then there will be a little English test. Like, for example, let's see if you can answer this one. Jorge is Venezuelan and his wife is, and you need to find, she's from Sweden, and you need to say that she's Swedish, right? Is your grandfather. So how old is your grandfather? Which age is your grandfather? What time is your grandfather? How much is your grandfather? Obviously, it's how old is your grandfather, right? So nothing super difficult, but we want to make sure that you have that basic knowledge, and that's how it works. And then when you're done, as I said, you will get either congratulations, you passed the test, or sorry, you didn't pass the test, but we'll send you a new link so you can try again. So here is a readiness test. How many questions do we have to solve? So there are about 100 questions total, and you need to answer correctly 80% of them to pass. Again, don't worry about it. As I said, the vast majority of the students, about 92%, pass on the first try, and then most people pass on the second of those who failed. So you'll do just fine. Take as much time as you need. It's not timed. We want to make sure that you can kind of answer them correctly. The readiness test is just for the university students. Yes, good question. Yes, the readiness test is only for the university students. The professionals and the pre-college teens, they have their own preparation. So they have 4 weeks of training, which they submit, completed already. And so they have to go through a much, much more rigorous training. And the reason for that is that the university students, you all are taking the courses at your university. So you come prepared, your professors kind of are there for you to help. But the non-student, non-university student participants, we don't know. Some of them don't have any training in business. And so obviously they have to take specialized training for 4 weeks, and they have to pass 4 tests, not just one. And so we had 2,000 of those who applied this semester, and only about 400 of them passed all 4 tests. Again, some of them never even showed up, but many attempted and were not good enough. And so we are very selective here. So only about 400 people advanced to the stage where they will be placed on teams. And again, obviously all teams are matched by age and by work experience. So even within the university track, by the way, we try to match you. So the teams will be comprised in a way that everybody is from a different country, but we try to keep you roughly the same age and the same work experience and the same study level. And to be honest, we've done a lot of studies, and it doesn't look like students, like master's students, are necessarily much better than undergraduate students. But we noticed when we mix sort of masters and undergraduates, or if we mix older people, more experienced people, and younger people, all kinds of things tend to go a little, wrong. So the older people say, oh, I don't want to babysit those kids, 20-year-olds. And then the younger kids say, we don't want to work with those older MBA students because they're so bossy and they think they know everything. They never listen to me. And so usually there are some kind of additional tensions that we don't want. There will be still some variation in age. It's impossible to match, everyone perfectly. But generally, if you're an older, more mature person with work experience, let's say you're 35, maybe you're an MBA student, you will be in a team with people who are more like you, kind of have a career, have work experience, maybe have a family. So this way you kind of have more similar schedule and sort of at a more similar stage in your life. And then the younger kids or students are with younger students. So we try to match it that way. So now, Paola, when will the program assign my team? Paola, no, your classmates shouldn't have, or I don't know which university you are from, but the teams will be formed all on the same day, which will be March 1st this year. We do have, as I said, close to 2,000 students, 1.5 or 1.6 thousand students on teams, but those are in the early track. And so usually it's a different set of universities, different set of professors. The whole reason they are on the teams now, because their semester started early. And so we placed them on teams in January, and they will be done in another, 2-3 weeks. For you, I assume those who are here, you are in the late track. So 2021 1B, not 1A. And so you will be all placed on teams on March the 1st, basically next Monday. It will happen towards the end of the day, and you will get an email which will say, Paola, here is your team. And you will see a list of 5, maybe 6 people. And so you will have their names and emails. You will reach out to them by email first, and then it's up to you to decide how you want to communicate. You can use Skype, Dropbox, Zoom, Google, whatever you want to use. Some teams use email only, but most teams have at least occasional live meetings in Zoom, and that's very good. One thing I will also say about teams is that I already told if somebody is not participating hard enough, we can kick out that person from the team. So make sure to let us know if there is a problem. It's not going to affect your team in any way. It's not part of the evaluation. We want to know if there is a problem so we can address it. But you can also request additional team members. So we have a couple of universities where the semester starts late. So this year it will be Germany and Japan, if I remember correctly. So they will be joining about a week late. And so that means that we will have some students sort of on the wait list. And so if your team has a slow start, if somebody may not do well, or somebody is so lazy that you decide to kick out that person from the team, as long as you tell us about it, and as long as we remove somebody from the team, we'll actually be able to replace that person with someone new. So if you tell us that there is a problem, we will be able to replace that person. And we have those latecomers where the semester starts late. And so we may be able to even add more people to your team as we move along. We will not, though, at no circumstances, we will not be able to move you to a different team. So very rarely, maybe every other semester, we have one student who says, I don't like my team, can I go to a different team? Usually that's something that is very hard to arrange because, we will look at what's the reason. Like if it's a conflict, obviously, we will do something about it. Or if there is some sort of, harassment going on, I mean, no question, we always address those immediately. But if it's just a matter that, I'm so smart and my team is so dumb and I want a better team, usually we do not move people across teams because that's not how we do it. So what we can do is we can add more people to your team so you have sort of more people to work with. We can remove people from the team if somebody legitimately doesn't do much work. But we usually don't let people sort of shop around before they find their dream team where they can just kind of sit and enjoy and let somebody else do the work. So sorry, but usually we don't move people to other teams unless, as I said, it's like a matter of conflict or something like that. As a team group, we choose which project. Very good question. You can choose any company, any client you want, so from the list. And so you have a total of, as I said, 10 choices. We have a limited number of teams that will be assigned to the Alibaba track. And the reason for that is that they want a limited number of teams and they will be meeting with each team each week. So it's a requirement. So they will be meeting literally like every week you will be required to go to a meeting. And so it's a little bit more demanding. And so they want to meet with each team each week. And so for that reason, they don't want too many teams so that they can sort of meet everyone. But also for you guys, it's much more work. So in that track, it will be more demanding. And so if you've done the readiness test, you know that there is a question there, would you like to be in that track? And if so, are you able to commit all that time? And so that one will be sort of, you need to express your interest early on, and then we will basically, assign you based on first come, first serve basis. But for all the other teams, you can choose any team you like. And moreover, you can change your team anytime as well. I mean, you can change your client anytime you want. So if you start, for example, working on dart drones, but then later on you decide that you want to do instead, I don't know, Coach Grifoni or whatever other teams we have on the list, you can. It's not a problem. So normally some teams are some clients are a little bit more popular, others are a little bit less popular. But generally we get, approximately the same number of teams per company. So we have about 1,000 teams total. And so there are 10 clients, so there will be roughly 100 teams working on each challenge. Some more, some less, but more or less it will be roughly like that. After 2 weeks, I believe, once you've selected your teams, here is like sort of a tip. I will distribute to everyone how many teams chose each company. And usually it's kind of in your interest to select the less popular companies. The reason for that is that when we select the winners in each company category. So there will be not one winning team, but there will be 10 winning teams. So there will be one team for each client. And the reason for that obviously is because the challenges are somewhat different. And it's, comparing apples to oranges, so to speak. So we have to sort of, we cannot objectively say that this one is better than that one if it's two different clients, two different challenges. And so if you select the less popular company, you sort of have a greater chance of winning the competition, so to speak. And so we will tell you the statistics from the early track, so you know which ones are more popular. And then we will also let you know once we know the statistics for your track. And it's kind of in your interest to perhaps, choose the one that is less popular so that you have less competition. The reason I'm telling you that, to you is because one, I want you to have a greater chance of winning the competition, but also it is in my interest that the company sort of, number of teams per company is more balanced. And so I want you to kind of select less popular companies so that everybody, each company has roughly the same number of teams. But it is also in your interest to go after the least popular company, and we'll give you those statistics. Now, Swapnil again asks about readiness test. I don't know what to do. No, Swapnil, so you probably, so if you cleared 4 tests, then you are in the non-university track. And so if that's what, where you are, then you're all set. You don't need to do anything, so you are all set. You don't need to do anything. I'm not even sure how you got this link because this was supposed to be only for university students, but that's no problem. If you joined, that's perfectly fine. So in your case, yes, if you cleared 4 tests, you're all set. You don't need to do anything. So the readiness test is only for the university students. We would like to know if we can choose the project to work on. Yes, we talked about that. You have full choice. Why is this project not optional? It seems like a lot of pressure and high workload. Good question, and let me address that a little bit, in more detail. Yes, it is a lot of work. You will be in a team. Not only that, it will be in an international team, and it will be in an international virtual team. So there will be more work than just, write some quick paper. We've had a lot of meetings about making it optional or required. My preference is that the professors make it optional, because if, the person anonymously here doesn't want to participate in a project like that, is not able to commit the time, maybe he or she is, I don't know, a full-time employee, doesn't have the time, or has a big family or kids and needs to attend to them. Since it's a team-based project, my preference is that people who are not ready do not participate in the project, because otherwise, if you cannot, give it all you have, the team will not be happy. And if the team is not happy, I'm not happy, right? So my preference is that professors make it optional. On the other hand, professors don't want to make it optional because, optional, it's a course, you have to do, readings, exams, lab assignments, if you have any. And so that's one of those assignments. It's like a big case study. And so the professors obviously time the course in a way that, like, for example, in my course. So yes, I know that it's a big part of the course. And so I assign, I believe it's 30% of the course. And for my master's students, that is the course, like that's the whole course. They have to do a lot of additional work, but it's all around X-Culture. And so, it's not like I double the workload. It just, in my course where X-Culture is part of the course, I have fewer homework assignments perhaps, or they are smaller than usual. There is no paper to write, which normally would be a requirement. And instead, not in addition, but instead they have X-Culture. Many professors don't want to make it optional because in that case, they have to come up with an additional assignment. So if somebody doesn't want to do X-Culture, it means that the professor needs to create something else in addition to, instead of X-Culture. And so again, many professors don't want to do it. But it is my preference that both my students and other students have it as an option. It does create some hassle for me. And so what I tell my students is that if you don't want to work in a team, I can put you on a one-person team. So you'll just write a paper. And so this way you don't have to deal with the time zone differences. You don't have to deal with, all this cross-cultural communication. If you don't want to get that experience, that's fine, no problem. So you will just simply write a paper. And so if you're my student, I guess that would be the alternative that I would offer. I know many professors don't offer that alternative. They say, no, it's part of the course. Like you cannot choose not to do the exam, or you cannot choose not to do the homework. And as I said, I kind of prefer that if the student strongly, opposes to participate in the project, sure, let's do something else. So with my student, and maybe you want to talk to your professors as well, if you're somebody else's, as I said, maybe they will be willing to spend all that extra time in designing a new project and managing you directly. And obviously that's, extra work, extra time for the professor, but I suppose that's fine. So with my students, if you really have a legitimate reason, like if you don't want to do it, or if you don't have the time, I guess you can just, do it individually. And so in that case, you don't have to deal with the hassles of team meetings and coordination with other students. You can just choose the challenge and basically write the paper on your own as you would write a paper for just about any other course. You'll probably miss all of the fun. Like for example, if you look at, or if I look, when I look at the satisfaction numbers at the end of the project, they're extremely positive. Like over 90% of the people, like literally give us a perfect 5 on satisfaction. And they say it was extremely useful for their career. It was very good. In many cases, the comments are, it was hard, but it was worth it. In some comments, they would say, during the project, I thought, why did I get into it? But now that it's over, looking back, I think, oh, actually, it was a very good project. We do have a few students each semester, maybe 2-3%, who didn't like it. I don't know, maybe had a bad team, or maybe were busy otherwise. But I guess, like same thing happens with any project, or any iconic product. Like you look at the, iPhone 12, whatever the latest one, evaluations online, and even there you will see that some people are not happy with it. So I guess, some things just don't work for some people. But yeah, generally it's required. If you don't want to do it in a team, in my class, I can offer you to do it individually. So it will be probably less time, less work, but also less fun. But talk to your professor. So it is my preference that if you don't want to do it, the professor allows you to do it, but be cognizant that for the professor, it's more work. So it is extra, like they have to design a new assignment. They have to keep in mind that you have, you do different things, and it's, it is a little demanding on the professor in that case. And so if the professor says no, sort of, it's not because the professor is bad, it's because, there is some economy of scale here. And, if different students do different assignments, that's more work for the professor. Is there a limit on the test? No, there is no limit. When we will get the link to the test, you already should have gotten it. So as long as your name was given to us by the professor, you should have gotten the link already. Now, importantly, occasionally, the email with the link to the test gets into your spam folder. So we send out, as you can imagine, thousands of those emails because we have thousands of students. And occasionally some email servers think that it's some sort of a spammer. And so rarely, but sometimes we hear that our emails make it into the spam folder. So if you have not received your welcome letter yet with the link to the test, do go to spam to junk mail folder and check if it may be there. Usually it shouldn't be, but do check it just in case. So that's where it might be if you haven't received it. And if nothing else works, send an email to admin@xculture.org. And so we will send you a new link. Maybe you accidentally deleted it. Maybe you missed it. Maybe you didn't realize it was the link. It was that welcome letter. So if you cannot find it, or if you deleted it already, send an email to admin@xculture.org and we will send you a new link. Julia, so you said that you advanced to the practical training. Yes, Julia must be one of those pre-college teens or professionals. If you are in that group, you already did all of the tests. You don't need to do the readiness test. So everything's good. So do I have to choose the project I want to work on, or before or after I'm put in the team? Great question. You have 2 weeks to select which company, which challenge you want to work on. So you will be first placed on the team, and all you do the first week, you just get to know each other. So all you have to do is just basically establish contact and start talking to your team members. And then you select your client company by the end of the second week. And so during that time, we hope that you will watch the webinars with the clients. Some of them have already been recorded. There will be another round, so there will be more live webinars. And so based on that, you can then as a team discuss and decide which one you want to choose. Now, very importantly, you will have to decide as a team which client you want to work on. So it's not something that you alone can choose. And so sometimes what happens is that one person on the team wants this company and another person wants that company. So what do you do in that case? Well, unfortunately, as a team, you have to reach a compromise. And so you can choose any company, but it has to be one client for the whole team. And so negotiating about that is sort of part of the exercise. So you'll need to decide as a team, and we don't really hear many problems about that kind of choice. So I don't think why you would think that it happens a lot, but it seems like most teams reach an agreement pretty quickly. But yes, that would be something you need to do. Alibaba, yes, Alibaba is only for master's students or older undergraduate students. And again, the reason for that is that it's managed by the Italian office of Alibaba in collaboration with an incubator at the Milan Polytechnic University. And so there are several students from Milan who participate in that challenge. And so they made room for some students from Xculture, but because the Milan students are masters, so they want students of the same level. So that track would be open primarily for the master's students, and it's limited. I think they need only 60 people. Again, when you sign up for Alibaba track, be careful, because that one will require a little bit more work. So that one, in addition to all of the teamwork and communication, and they still want weekly meetings, and they will want required presentations at the end. So that one will require much more work. So we only want people there who are ready to commit that time. You mentioned before some special meeting you have on weekends. Yes, so on weekends, there will be a range of training webinars organized by the coaches. And usually those are devoted, each one to a different topic. So there will be one on entry modes. There will be one on plagiarism and academic referencing. They will do a couple of webinars where they will review common mistakes from the last semester's reports and things like that. And then we also do some fun things, as I said, like, for example, those virtual picnics, country tours. You will be getting invitations as we organize them. So some of them are already scheduled for the whole semester, and you'll get the links for the whole semester, and some are more spontaneous. Like if somebody wants to do something fun, they're completely optional. You don't need to go there. And usually we have maybe 50, 60 people attending on a given weekend out of like 4,000. So, but if you want that kind of component, you will be able to participate in it. Paola is asking a very good question. So inside the team, do members have the responsibility to assign tasks between them? Great question. You have complete freedom as a team to decide how you communicate, how you coordinate, and who does what. My recommendation is that you assign workload by function and not by report section. So some teams, what they do is they say, okay, well, there are so many questions that we need to work on. Why don't you, Paola, work on, let's say, the marketing question, and I will work on the HR question. And then, for example, Swapnil will work on, I don't know, logistics question. And then we will work independently for the whole semester. But then at the end of the semester, we'll just send our work to one person, and we will copy and merge it into one document and submit it as a report. That generally is a bad idea. And the reason for that is that one, I want to hear from you as well. So if you give me your suggestions for my section, I will do a better job. So we want you to communicate, not to work independently, individually, because Paola will not do a very good job if she doesn't get my ideas. Maybe she will, but she will probably do a better job if she hears from the rest of the team members. Second, maybe someone on our team is lazy. Maybe I'm the one who will plagiarize my section and who will not do a good job. And if you wait for me to submit my section until the end of the semester, you don't even know if I'm doing the work. What if I'm not done at the end? Or what if my quality of my work is bad? So you don't want to be sort of caught up in a situation where one section is missing. It seems like it works much better when you divide up the workload by function, where you say, for example, let's say Paola, she seems to be very proactive and very intelligent. So why don't you do the coordination? So your job, Paola, will be to make sure that everything's being done each week. You will check everybody's work each week. You will put it all together. You will send us the reminders if something needs to be done. So you'll do the coordination. And Swapnil seems like he's very good at research. So why don't you go and do some research for all of the questions online and bring us some ideas? And then maybe, I don't know, Sarah is the native speaker. So she's from California. She speaks English as the native language. Maybe we will ask her to do the copy editing. So whatever we bring to her, in the end, she will be, going through the whole document and kind of changing our bullet list ideas into full text. And so that way everybody works on every task, but everybody has a different function. So those teams tend to do a somewhat better project. So now, how can I take Alibaba for a project? So when you're doing the readiness, well, Swapnil, so if I understand correctly, you are in the non-university track, you're probably a pre-college teen, right? And if so, you are too young for that one. So that one requires only master's students. But those who are eligible, when you do the readiness test, there is a question, you can click on that link and you can sign up for that project. Again, be careful because that one will require a little bit more commitment and work. So don't do it unless you're fully ready to commit. I already took the test 5 days ago. I have not gotten my teammates yet. Yes, you will get your teammates on March 1st. So nothing will be happening until then, but on March 1st, on Monday, you will get your team members towards the end of the day. This meeting will be recorded and uploaded somewhere. Yes, very good question, Vanessa. In fact, let me show you right here. So when you go to the resource page, you have here one of the things, you have a link to webinars. Where's the webinars? Just a second. Webinars. Oh, I need to add it back to the list. But so why do you not have? Let me see. Maybe it's in the. I'll make sure to also add a separate link. But I believe you also have the webinar schedule here. Let me see. Yeah, webinar schedule. So in each of the instructions, you have the link, and I will make sure to put it also on the resource page. And so this is a file that contains the schedule of all upcoming webinars and then all recorded webinars. Like, for example, the one that we have now, as you see, it's here, and there's the registration link. But then there will be a few more, like we will have a webinar with one of the companies next semester. We'll have more orientations. And so you have the links here for the upcoming webinars. There will be more added in the next days as we schedule the second round of webinars with the client companies. And then also here you can see the recordings of the webinars with the client companies, including a couple of them that are very interesting, but are not participating this semester, like Abovo is not participating this semester, but you can still get the webinar and you can find them here. So you just click on the link and you will be able to go directly to the recording and watch it there, right? And so there are some webinars here that are company introductions. So that's the companies that participate in Xculture's clients. But I also left here a couple of webinars that were on specific topics. So like, for example, we had one professor did a webinar on SWOT analysis. There was another one on the competition analysis, how to do it right. There was one on international marketing. We will do more of those again as the semester progresses. There will be professors who will volunteer to do some interesting things. And so there will be more live webinars like that, but you can also watch the recordings from earlier or from the last semester, the ones that I figured would be very interesting, and we may not be able to get the same speaker, so that you can still watch it even though the person may not be available. I have received my acceptance letter from IT support. Yes, that's very good. So I'm promoted to the practical training. Yes, that's for the non-university students. That means that you're all set. Now just wait until Monday. And yes, Wani, if you are a non-university student and you did 4 tests and you passed them, you're all set. You don't really need to do anything else. Wait until Monday. What are companies are French? I don't think we have any French companies this semester. We did have a few companies from France in the past, but I don't think we have any of those. And so for the Alibaba track, all of those companies are working with the Italian branch of Alibaba, so they are Italians. Yeah, and I think this is all of the questions that we've had. So if you have any other ones, I'll be happy to answer them, but otherwise I think we're pretty much done. When will the topic booking for Alibaba start? Alibaba is on the same track. Everything's the same. The only difference is, as I said, that they have a limited space. And again, don't look at it as something better. So it's slightly different. As I said, there will be a little bit more face-to-face contact and a little bit more demands there, but at the same time, it will require more time. And so if you're ready to submit all, to commit all the time, and if you're ready to work really, really hard, like, think about, up to 10 hours a week, if not more, sign up for that track and we should be able to put you in there. But if you prefer to kind of go quickly through the project and just get it done and get your good grade and forget about it, then you better not sign up for Alibaba, because that one will require a little bit more work. All right. Okay, so it seems like we've covered all of the questions. Thank you very much for your attention. And so your next step is wait until Monday. On Monday, you will get your team members, and good luck from that point on. If you haven't done your readiness test, then yes, you need to complete it by Monday. And so again, nothing super difficult. If for any reason you will not pass the test on the first try, you will get an email saying that you failed and you need to try again. If you pass, you will get an email that will say you passed, everything's good, congratulations. All right, yeah. And Dwani, so yes, you already took the 4 tests, as you said, so you don't need to do the readiness test. You're all set. If you got an email saying that you passed all theoretical training tests, you're all set. You don't need to do anything. Just wait until Monday. You're done. So you don't need to do anything else. All right. So, and if you have any questions, as always, you can send them to admin@xculture.org. And so we will reply by email or connect with you if there is more information. All right. Thank you.